Hello. Hello. Hello, everyone. Can everybody hear me in person and online? For people online, just put something in the chat saying, yes, perfect. Love to see it. So, hi, everyone. My name is Zach. I'm the Clubs and Services Commissioner for this year. Just for a quick recap, this is the club funding workshop. If you're here for the marketing workshop, that's another room. Just want to make sure you're here for the right workshop. Perfect. So yeah, today I'm here to present and kind of talk a bit about club funding and the adjustments this year, as well as kind of the years to come and all that fun stuff. So yeah, get going. So we'll start with the land acknowledgement. So we would like to acknowledge that we are on unceded and unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory. We must actively work towards decolonizing this space by ensuring that our words, actions, and behaviors are constantly and continuously challenging the colonialist and racist norms that govern our ways of being. We pay respect to the Algonquin people, who are the traditional guardians of this land. We also pay respect to the Indigenous people from all nations across Turtle Island. We acknowledge the longstanding relationship with this territory, which remains unceded. We acknowledge the traditional knowledge keepers, both young and old, and we honor their courageous leaders past, present, and future. So today we have 5 things. When I did the French one, it was pretty smooth sailing. Last year I got in trouble for being too long. So this year I try to be a little faster because don't want to keep you guys here all day. Don't know what that was about. But yeah, so we're going to kind of go over a couple things: what is funding, the types of funding, the application process. Then there's a small question period. And then based on time, that'll be 5 to 10 minutes. And then we'll go into a live application submission with myself doing it for you guys with your assistance. But yeah. And for people online, just reiterating, I typically do questions with people hands up here, and then I'll go to you guys online afterwards, or vice versa. Depends on who has more questions. So yeah, we'll get going. So at this point in time, I know at least 360 of you clubs that are a good large portion of you here today have previously applied for funding. So by a show of hands, can I get a general understanding of who here knows what club funding is? Okay, good. Okay, okay. Good amount of numbers. Good. So yeah. So for you folks that have gone through club funding already, been around for a while now, kind of know the gist of it. But it is a service offered by YOSU to help fund club activities throughout the year. This year, the board of directors was capable of allocating $355,000 to club funding, and big change this year as well. It is now on a monthly basis instead of a term basis. So now you can apply at the beginning of the month. So for September, October, you apply in September. For November, you apply October. For December and January, you apply November. In January, you apply February, and so on and so forth, moving forward throughout the years. Another big change this year. There are 2 types of funding. The basic funding, which is your operational needs, which is kind of just like if you have a website hosting or a Zoom, you need that, you apply for the basic funding, and you can ask for up to $500. That is a very easy process to go through because we always give you those funds. It's kind of a guarantee. You need it for your club to function. Now, there are 6 types of partnership grants, which start off with the social, athletic, and academic events grant, the sustainable initiative grant, the conference and travel grant, the equity and accessibility initiative grant, arts and music grant, and as well as the mental health grant. So now we're kind of getting to the steps of like before you apply, what you need to do. Once again, some of you probably knew this, but for the new folks, this is some stuff important to note. A, you need a club bank account. We cannot stop, I think, reiterating. Lilia and Mika know this for a fact. It's the one question always asks every year. Can I use my personal bank accounts? No, you need a club bank account. Other thing, attending the workshop, which is why Lilia asked you guys to fill out that short survey earlier to make sure that we know who is attending the workshop and who qualify for funding. And lastly, which I'll be showing you guys later, we have a new club funding portal system. And so you would just need to create your club account and yourself on that platform as well. Okay, application process. So pretty straightforward. All the information is as well on the application portal itself. But what you would need is your club name, club ID, signing officer information, the club's annual budget, and that should not be there. It's full presentation. Ignore the bottom line. That's on me. And once again, as I said, you apply now at the beginning of each month. And yeah, so it's year-round funding. Approval process. So this is changed as well. So once you have submitted your application, the system administrator will delegate your application to one of the club committee members, at which point that committee member will go through a checklist, going over your bilingualism, accessibility, sustainability, and give you a score on that. Once that has been completed by the club committee will then come back together, meet, and discuss on how much we're going to give each club at that point in time. At which point, for you folks who are in political science, I'm going to use the word omnibus because it's much faster to approve all the funding instead of going through one at a time through all the clubs and just approving and doing a vote on each one. Once that is done, the clubs committee gets approval, sends it off. Finance gets notified of it. So that's our own personal finance department with your club information and your club banking information, at which point they will send out half of the amount you approved for. The other half will come once you submit your receipts. And I'll get into that in the receipt submission section. Amendments. So this is, I guess, between the submission of the application, approval. This is only pending your approval and before you submit your receipts. So things happen. One day you have to buy a table. Next day, there are no tables where you have to buy them from, or Walmart or whatever. And you're like, okay, well, I have to figure something else out. So you're going to go buy yourself a box to put stuff on. A box is much cheaper than a table. So you're going to put a request in to change the amounts. But now that you only have a box, you need multiple boxes maybe, or you need other things that show up. So you're going to put that request in as well. Through the platform, you put the request in, the committee will meet and approve or deny the request. And you will then have to receive an email notification immediately once the decision's been made, and you will be able to move forward with that purchase or not. Again, or I'm saying it actually now, but you cannot spend money you haven't been approved for. It is for auditing reasons on our end to make sure that we are financially correct in all our books. Now over to the receipts. So something a little different, something not too different. This year, as always, you need to submit your receipts for all articles you purchase. In addition, this year, the one benefit though, and that's what the half funding you get, is you can submit receipts up until April, realistically. So if you apply in November, you don't realistically have to submit your receipts until April, because that's when the whole recognition status reverts, because in May, all clubs will need to reapply for this fund for club status with POC. That is to make our lives easier, as well as the university's life easier with CNR, and so that you guys can potentially have access to your events accounts earlier in the year. Basically, once you submit your receipts, you're guaranteed to get your other half of the amount, but you have until April to do so. If you don't do it, if you do it after April, there's not the guarantee that you will get your funds immediately. It may take a little longer because it's a different process. But yeah, that's kind of it. And after my presentation, I'll kind of go over what the submission needs to include per clubs and student group collective policy number 4. Because you need to include your bank statements as well as all purchases as well, just to make sure that the net balance coming in is equal to the balance coming out of your bank account, and it's not going to other things or not being used for other purposes that are not approved. Okay, and yeah, not submitting your receipts at the end of the term or at all will affect any future pending approvals and even your club status to some extent. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of the first part of the presentation. If there are any questions, we'll go to it. I just want to check what time it is, because then I'll put a timer for 30. Yeah, so we'll do 10 minutes of questions, and then we'll head over to the live demo. So I saw your hand go up first.
So you mentioned we would get half of our funds when we get approved and half at the end. So
Yeah.
in the meantime, how are you envisioning that working? Would it be like, for example, we'd go to a law tournament, so it would be we would only pay half the registration fee, ask our members to pay for the rest of it out of their own pockets?
Yes, so that will have to occur. One of the reasons for that is we have heard of clubs, not saying yours specifically, who are misusing funds or and faking receipts. And so for that reason, we need to be a little more stringent on that end because any misappropriation of funds on your end does affect YOLSU and our financial statements. And so realistically, if you also, because you can submit your receipts the day after you submit, like if you approve your receipt on a Friday, like your on a Friday, you submit your receipts on Monday, you can get your full funds immediately. Like, so it just depends on how fast you submit your receipts as well, because we're just extending the time because we understand that we're all students. One day you think you're ahead of class and then you wake up the next morning, you're like, oh shoot, I have an assignment due today. Or I have an exam tomorrow. And so trying to be a little more accommodating in that aspect as well, because we all are busy, we're all students and things occur in life.
Sure, but we do have to spend our own money before we.
Yes. Yeah. It won't be the case for everybody, but yes.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by that? It won't be the case for everyone?
So for your case is registration specifically. Now, let's say a club itself is applying for, let's say, like, I don't know, a virtual event of sorts. And so in that virtual event, they have prizes as well. So now they can say, okay, we're going to spend on the virtual platform X amount of money, but now the prizes after they know the winners and so on, and they'll pay that out and receive the money as well for that immediately. So it depends on how you're planning as well, logistically.
Will there be resources to show us how we can plan?
Yeah, so we talk to CVO and help develop those resources for you guys as well. Yeah. I saw a lot of hands now, there's no hands. We'll just go up though, and that's fine.
Yeah, so if we have to like pay for something before we go out the second half of funding, could we like pay from our own bank account and then transfer from the club bank account to ours to like.
Yeah, so that's what we advise you guys. Like I told the previous group this, but and this is, once again, this is up to you guys and your finance person or whoever's in charge of this. But what I strongly advise clubs, when you open a bank account, don't open a credit card account linked to that account, because if you didn't know, the initial person who opened that account with the credit, it's their name. So as you go for the years, that credit card is still linked to that person's name. So if there are issues on the credit side of the club, that will come back to you. So what we advise you guys is to just have a normal access account for checkings, and at which point you would like send money to your club execs who would be doing the payments if you can't do the payments directly from your bank account. Yes.
You apply for funding a couple months in advance?
Yep, so that's a question I received in the presentation as well. So what we'll be doing is I'll bring it up to the committee, because it's not just myself who makes decisions for this kind of stuff, it's a policy. And so the committee will have to discuss it, and I think it'll be pretty, it should be pretty easy to pass. Like I don't see any issues with it. But ideally, yeah, you can, if you apply in January, you can apply again, you can apply for March realistically. But if you now apply in February for the event, we're going to be questioning a bit. But
so we could apply for a November, November, and December.
You could, yeah. But that's not in the policy yet. But I'll bring it to my committee and we'll discuss it.
That's how do we go to submit more steps like
Yes, so I'll get to that when I go to the live demo, because it'll be all on the platform. But yeah, we'll get to that.
Have a lot of subscriptions that we use throughout the year. With that, I don't know if we have $500 for the or like basic, but that be counted as that?
Yeah, so that would be your operational fees, because basically, as a lot of you probably know, before it was you have to put events and operational things in the same application. Now what's going to happen is, because it's operational fee things, those applications will be able to approve much faster. Before we have to approve the whole application. Now they have it separate, we can start the operational fees, which is things you guys need on a regular basis, so like Zoom or web hosting or email addresses and so on. And those can be approved much more quickly than before.
This nature of half and half funding, will the ability to get our receipts be open semester
Yep.
round so that we.
Year round.
rather have At a day almost. or-
Yep, so if you have your receipts done and all and submitted for the next week, it'll be fine, yeah. You have until just April 30th to submit them. No, those are full.
Can you repeat the question, please?
For operational expenses, do you get half the funds? No, you get the full amount for operational expenses. Yeah, I'll get to that in the application.
Process and
So the ideal is the committee takes a week to review them. We meet on the Friday afterwards and omnibus decision, at which point over the weekend, finance gets the bank information as well as the amounts. And so during the following week, we have a schedule of when payments are made out to different external companies and so on. And so on one of those days, your payment would go out.
And kind of reiterating his question. You can, or you'll see if we can kind of do same thing like last year when you apply to the pepper for
Mhm.
November. That we can have that early.
Yeah, I have to meet the committee since I can't make that decision myself. It has to. Policies are made through subcommittee, governance committee, then board. But yeah, I can talk about it. Again, back down.
What is the policy on submitting receipts that was foreign?
Foreign currency, so for that, I can actually bring up the policy itself. I have it here. It is funding terms and conditions. So you guys should all have access to this. Financial reporting, yeah, so for all transactions in foreign currency, a posted transaction in a club bank statement is required. This is kind of what I was alluding to earlier. With you need to submit your bank statements. On your bank statement, it'll indicate the foreign exchange and I'll cover that for you as well. It should be on the CVO page, all this, and if not, then I'll post my email in the chat and you can send me an email, I can send it to you as well. And it should be it'll be on the USU website soon enough. We're revamping the website a bit. I'm just moving up and I'll come back down, okay?
Appointing a members, would that be okay still?
Repeat.
You mentioned we need to provide a bank statement.
Yeah.
Foreign currency, is it okay, like if it's just shown us? As long as we.
I'd have to get back to you on that because finance is telling you one thing as well, because it's to do with auditing reasons. This has been built up like this. So I'd have to check with them first to make sure that's fine.
So when, let's say you're buying certain things for the club for an event, and club members just buy it out of their cards, would you need to buy everything, the club's card, the company card?
No, so in your club, because what you need to submit no matter what is your club bank statement. And so in your bank statement, it would indicate e-transfers going out for certain amounts and you'd have those receipts matching as well.
Oh, so for the receipts, it'll have the person's credit card, but then you'll expense it as an AP?
Basically. Yes.
Sorry, you might have already explained this and I missed it, but for the grants, or how many grants are we allowed to apply to?
So you can apply to all the grants. You just have a maximum application of $6,000 for the entire year.
Okay, and I'm sorry, how much money can we get from each of the grants?
So if you want to, let's say, apply for the mental health grant and ask for $6,000 for that, then you've spent your cap for the year. So
Okay.
it's up to you guys to plan as well in that accordance. I'm sorting up way up.
Yeah, so I know like the funding like platform changed, like is everything still like on the CVO website? Like,
So the link will be there to direct you to the platform, which I'll kind of demo in a couple minutes. But yeah,
I also have to get another-
Yeah.
Like, I know that's like we try to increase the capital expenses. The fund capital expenses. Camera, microphone, and stuff like that. Would that be included in like capital expenses that we couldn't get funding?
that is, I'd say, a case by case. Because there are fine lines between what is and isn't considered capital expenses. I don't have an answer for you on that at the moment. If you send me an email, I can talk to finance and get back to you on exactly what that defines.
Okay, yeah, that's weird. That works, yeah. Like,
Yes.
is the next proposal like soon? Like, from what I heard, it's like on the 16th.
Yeah, so we had some internal issues, but it should be sent out soon. No, yeah, that's all give me adjusted.
When is our, sorry,
Yeah, I have to go through Cubs committee first.
Okay.
So it'd be the Cubs committee that decides it.
okay, so soon enough.
Yeah, no, you guys will have ample time to submit your applications for like October, September. Don't worry.
So it's $500 the maximum. Of how many can,
For operational expenses, yes.
regardless of the size of the club.
Yeah. Yeah.
This really matter whether your club is less. You guys hold about 20 people.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna come back. Yep.
So we were just in the VEMS workshop.
Okay.
We kind of don't really have like a. And so like I did the funding applications last year. That like understandably CBUO and UOSU want to see a pretty detailed account of what we're going to be spending money on and a pretty good estimate of how much it's going to cost. We were given like ranges from like $800 for a barbecue to like $2,500 for water, basically. And so I'm just wondering if you have any like tips on how we can budget appropriately for these kinds of things. And then also with like these really large amounts, like one day a barbecue might be 1,200, another day might be 1,500. How much, or like, how can we expect our execs to pay $750, 50% of that out of their pocket?
Yeah. So I'm not gonna too long, I guess, on relations and what other departments in university do, because that is out of my discretion and out of my purview. Obviously, I can chat to them to try to see if we can come up with a standard. I know that at UOSU, we're trying to work on a equipment rental program of which clubs would be able to rent equipment that we buy for free with a contract. Obviously, if you break it, pay it, pretty explicit, to kind of help alleviate those funds. But that's in the works. It's not done yet. But on the question of like not knowing the exact cost for items and things fluctuating, I don't really have an answer to that, because obviously like some things you can predict, others are less predictable. A good way to look by it, and probably not the answer you're looking for, is just plan for the worst case scenario.
I were to like budget like $3,000 for a barbecue. Like, is that not going to be looked at by CEO and UOSU, and you're going to like,
Well,
God, the amount of money?
yes. Yes. Obviously, if you ask us like a huge amount of money for like even a pen, if you ask for like a pencil and you're asking for $200 or $400 for a pencil, I'd be like, okay, what kind of pencil you buying? Because but yeah, like that's kind of also now where in the system, like we can, when the the committee member reviews your application, they can communicate with you guys directly and say, hey, this looks weird, this looks fishy. Can you give a better explanation than what you provided? And then you have 3 days to elaborate on that. Otherwise, we'll need to kind of skip over, because a lot of this is make sure you guys get your funds as quick as possible, so and you have answers quickly. and back there, and then I'll work my way back down again. And
If we get declined for some funding, is there a time period where we could talk to someone to figure out why we got declined and maybe amend it so that we can get funding for the event, or is it just no?
yep, so in this section, on stuff applications, so in here, kind of elaborates there's a, like, you guys get your answer of why or why not you apply, your funding got cut or wasn't approved. At which point you also have like an appeal decision that can be done, like obviously, like we're trying our best to try to accommodate everybody. We're also confined with a budget. If I had unlimited funds, I'd be like, I'd give you guys all like 50K because you guys are all like great on campus, but it's not possible. I'm not made of money, sadly. I wish. I think we all do. But yeah. And my work right down. I'm gonna take 2 questions online to see quickly, and then I'll hop onto the live demo just because I don't want to be yelled at for going over time again. Happened last year and hasn't happened yet, so knocking on wood. Okay, questions online? Any no hands raised? Oh, okay. So, yes, the recording will, and the presentation will be shared. The presentation will be sent to you guys by CVO at some point this week as well with the recording in French and English. And most companies have. Yeah, so for transfer fees, we understand that not all banks are nice and just give you free transfer fees. So what we advise all of you again is like, if you have if you have a finance person who is if the typical person in charge of finances and all expenditures, ideally just have all the funds go for that one person so that you can kind of save money on the transfer fees and just have to do a bigger payout in one shot instead of multiple small payouts. Okay. I'm gonna go to live demo now just because I don't want to run out of time. But yeah.
Sorry, I've been raising my hand since this question started. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Okay, so first question, can you give like examples for sustainability and accessibility? Because I've had multiple events that were rejected just for that reason. And
Yep.
it's kind of vague because like I did look at the criteria for it. And I believe I did check off some of the like the stuff for sustainability and accessibility, yet it was still rejected. So can you elaborate on it?
So, well, there's the checklist on the CVO website for sustainability accessibility. With regards to that itself, previously there was the tiers, which is like Sapphire, Ruby, and Emerald. If you had applied for an Emerald tier, we were very strict on you need to at least check off 1/3 of the list. If you failed to do so for your event, we did not even consider your event at all. And that goes to say the same with bilingualism. If your event was not bilingual for Emerald tier, we didn't even look at your event at all. Just because we are a bilingual university, we're the only one in Ontario. We got to really strive and push for that and become more accessible to all languages on campus. But we have to push for the Francophonie as well as sustainability and accessibility to all, because not everybody. Everybody has like sometimes own kind of needs, and we have to accommodate those needs. Because that's.
And last question. So we said we can't spend what we have not been approved of. How do we know which expenses have been approved? Because like I look at the Excel and there's nothing that states what has been approved and what hasn't been.
So through the new system, you'll know exactly what's been approved. That's kind of why the Excel is ancient. No more having hopefully to enable macros on your computer or try to reconfigure your computer if you're on an Apple or a Mac computer to make it work, because Windows and Mac. I'm in tech and I still don't get why Apple has to be Apple sometimes. I'm gonna go into for any other questions. I'm gonna hold off quickly. I'm gonna show a live demo because I want to make sure I get through this today. And then at the end, how much time we have left, I'll answer some more questions. Okay. So yes. So I'm already logged in, but basically the link will direct you to a login page of which you would put your information and password. password is encrypted, and everything is up to SOC 2 standards. So your bank information and all your personal information is protected to a very high standard. So once you log in, this is the kind of thing you'll see. You'll see there's 3 kind of subcategories: application, amendment requests, and reports. I'm gonna mute everybody right now. But yeah, so there are 3 things. I'm going to show you guys how the application goes, and then there'll be some tutorials online to help with the amendments and the reporting as well. But yeah. So there's a couple, and I did one earlier today for the French workshop, but what you would do, you apply on the funding opportunities. There are 2 opportunities here, the partnership grant and the basic funding. I'm going to do today for the partnership grant because it's a little more complicated. There's more things involved in it compared to the basic, which is just your items. But yeah. So you click apply now. Now there is eligibility. Basically just acknowledge that you agree to what's stated in the clubs and student group collective policies, and that you have read them. Because a lot of times, a lot of the answers you can find are in those already. But yeah. So you'd say yes, yes, and check. If you say no to these, it'll tell you, sorry, you can't have funding. And if you don't check it, it'll ask you to check it basically, or submit application. AP application quiz, submit, confirm. Now this is the application itself area. So we have the main section, which is kind of where all your information is going to populate itself. The notes is where you're going to communicate directly with the clubs committee, and they're going to put notes there requesting more information. And then even a big thing this year is you can now collaborate on the application itself. So if you have multiple execs working on an application, or if you are collaborating with another club for an event, you can collaborate with that club directly by just going to the collaboration tab and putting the information in, and they'll get access to this specific funding application with you. So now we're going to go confirmation. This is all just test thing. So it'll have your confirmation, your primary contact, and so on. Grant type, these are the 6 available in the partnership option. You can just select which one, go to equity, or does anybody want to give me a specific, I guess, grant type for this application round? Athletics, okay. So social, athletics, events, event information. Open here. This is basically verbatim of what your Excel is, just now much smoother. You can copy into it, and you have basically infinite rows. So if you have infinite events, you just go off. But yeah, does anybody have an event specific to your athletics event, like athletics grant application? Yep, an event.
It's not a quick, we don't use Excel anymore.
Nope.
Right?
No Excel anymore. Excel is gone.
Okay.
I love Excel, but not for club funding. Yes,
On the UOC site, right? Not the.
it will be on CVO and the UOC website. It's just not up yet. It's going to be up. But does anybody have an event name they want to give me? This is where participation is very helpful sometimes. Yes.
Social gala.
Social gala, okay. And this the event description, we'll just put task for now. Event date, we'll set it to the 20th of September. And your target audience. There we go. Business students. Okay. Something new as well this year is for bilingualism. There's no more maybe. Maybe it's not an option anymore. It's either bilingual or not bilingual, your events. It causes confusion. Like you either have an event bilingual or you like, yeah. So we'll say yes. I can hold questions until after, just because I'll make sure we get through this. And accessibility and sustainability comments, you guys have a checklist to work from. And you just populate that from there. And as I said earlier, you can go as far as you want on events.
Like.
Save. It's gonna probably not like me because it created lots of things. There we go. Yeah. But yeah, next up is item information, kind of same thing as before. This time, there's gonna be all these events, and it's gonna obviously put some things like that. Let's say social, item name. Does anybody have an item they would like to have at the social gala this year? Balloons. That's not sustainable, so it's gonna be a no. Catering, okay, catering. That's actually a good example. So catering,
It's like.
description, food. Item will be stored. It will be eaten, I don't. Well, typo, but yeah. And let's say it costs. How much is your catering gonna cost? $800, okay. Not that much. Save. How's that? Now, something as you probably all saw in the thing, if your item is over $1,000, you have to submit 3 quotes. You now have the capability of submitting those directly here. And once you submit those 3 quotes, we have basically submit quotes that are in the same range. Obviously, if you submit a quote that's $500, $3,000, and $1,000, we're going to ask you to resubmit quotes unless you can give us a valid explanation to why those are the 3 companies you provide. Because sometimes it does happen where there are only 2 companies in the region who can offer a special service. And so we can work around that, but put it within a similar range. Otherwise, we will request you to resubmit quotes within a proper range. And then you have your budget information. The application. So your expense one for your whatever it is, estimated cost, and your 2 dates. And then afterwards, and the same goes to the bottom with your revenue. So if you apply, let's say for club funding in October, you can say club funding October, and we approved you for $1,000, and you only received 500 because you haven't submitted your receipts yet. You put 1,000 in the estimated revenue and 500 to date. Now let's say it's October. Funding, only have one hand, so it's a trickier. Now let's say you two months later, 3 months later, it's January. You apply again for funding, so you do January. Type. And let's say this time you only apply for 500. You put 500 here, and since it's not approved yet, you don't know you don't have a guarantee on the funded. You just put 0 to date. Pretty straightforward on that end, I think. But yeah. Save that. You close it afterwards. And once you complete everything, you go click submit application. Well, and we get it and we deal with it on our end. But yeah. So on that, you can go on time. But yeah, it says submitted here, and you can go back to it and review it afterwards if need be. And you'll also see when it's approved or declined, the results. Okay, back to questions, and I'll work from the bottom. Actually, I'm going to start online this time, and then I'll go from bottom up for the people in person. So where can we have access? The exclusive list of what we can find cannot be found for funding. Yeah, so that is going to be posted on the CVO portal for that information.
It's getting hard to hear you.
Yep. Okay, thanks. If you guys just keep a little talk with like not as loud, I'd be really appreciated. But yeah, I'll get to all the people in person, just answering the people online at the moment. And it may help answer some questions you guys have too. So let's say we have an event and we make a profit out of a bake sale. Can we use the profit for funding other events? Are fundraising donations accepted? Yes. So this is something else that occurred in my French workshop. Now with club funding itself, last year, it was lots of ambiguity with regards to, hey, I want to have a bake sale and I would like to get funds from a bake sale to generate revenue itself. Revenue here is the key word because you're generating for your own club. That is not acceptable. Now, there are clubs on campus which are chapters of like CHEO or other clubs, non-political clubs. Political clubs don't get any funding for any of that kind of stuff, any like campaigning or anything like that. That's big no. But for let's say the Royals, they help fund mental health research and so on. And so themselves are acting as an intermediate between the student who they receive the funds for and who they're giving the funds to. In this case, if you require funding for like ingredients because you're going to make food to sell, that will go, and that funding will go directly to the Royals or to CHEO or whatever organization you are part of. That is fine. Okay. Make sure that's clear, because I know it could be a very touchy subject, especially earlier in the thing. Yes.
Just to clarify, like if we're fundraising for a specific cause, we could get funds, but if we're doing something that's gonna benefit like members of the club.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, the cause can't be, I'm not gonna name anything because it could bring issues to me, but obviously, if you're a recognized club, your cause is valid, like it's been approved. If you're not a recognized club and asking for funding, that's another issue. You shouldn't be applying for funding. You shouldn't even have a club account. But that's besides the point. But yeah. Other questions back online?
The second half of the question asks about donations.
Yeah, so donations, like if a student is donating for the cause, then it would be expected that the funds go to the cause you are saying you are. If you are accepting donations for a cause and then not giving it to the cause, that's like I can't do anything like that, but morals. I don't know what else to say about that one. But yeah. You have to submit all receipts at once, or can these sent? No, yeah. So you have to submit all receipts at once for that one application. Obviously, if you have multiple applications, you would be submitting multiple submissions of receipts throughout the year. But you only need to submit for the application itself.
When you say application, do you mean like the application for that? We can make separate applications for every event, or is it the application for that period?
No, yeah. So realistically, if you guys wanted to, somebody could, for the system now, they are a club that does like social events, but also mental health events and so on and so forth. A club, you guys can apply for the one as well as the other at the same time. So you can create multiple applications. And so for each of those applications, you would need to submit the receipts equivalent to those items that were listed there.
Okay, so multiple applications in the same application period.
Yeah. What is the new portal? New portal is what is up on the screen right now. You will get the link to it hopefully this week. We have an email ready to go and all that stuff. Although to fundraise more since the total funding went down. So this, I've had questions about this before, but if we are looking at the data itself, which I'm going to bore you guys with for a bit. So for all the math people, you may enjoy this. Others, you may not. But there is approximately 406 clubs currently recognized by the union. We only have 355K to allocate. If we had to put a cap of $6,000, because we thought there are events that will go up to those amounts. So that's where we said, okay, that's fair. But at the same time, we also acknowledge that not all events are going to be at $6,000, because if every club asks for $6,000, that'd be $2.4 to $2.6 million of funding, which quite over the budget that we have. Now, on the other hand, with the amount, if you take all the clubs and you average out the amount each club would get, it's approximately $800 a club would get for the full year. Realistically speaking, that's if we took the 355K divided by like 406, you get about $800 something. So we understand that not all clubs are going to ask for more. Some clubs are going to ask for less. And so that's why the cap's been put in place, just so that every club has a chance as well to apply for funding. Last year, booking terminus UCU was free, and we had booked it for the entire semester free of charge. This year it costs money for attendance fees. Is there a way to book it for free? Okay, so that's a question for CNR. That's kind of out of my scope, why you weren't charged last year for attendance fees. But typically attendance fees is basically your offer rights. So whenever you play music, attendance is just helping pay the offers a portion of funds. Obviously, they don't know who it is. So basically it just goes like 0.0001 cent to the offer. But you know, everything helps the one offer who's already making lots of money, who doesn't need more. But for that, I don't have an answer to you. I would go to CNR and ask them about it. Yeah, because that's out of my purview, and it's a completely different department within the university, and they're not under us. Is there some resources to explain what consideration? Yes, so in the basic funding policy, it kind of stipulates what isn't operational fee. Operational, but as I stated, like your bank fees, that's operational. Your website hosting fee, that's operational. Zoom, that's operational. Like anything that would basically make you unable to offer your event or your services or your planning or whatsoever to the student population is somewhat operational itself on a daily basis. I have one more question if you're online, then I'll get back to you guys. Or I'm gonna take one more question online, then I'll go with. The budget template from the last workshop is not necessary for submissions. It needs to be submitted as well. I don't know what the others have said in the other workshops. All I will say is for funding itself, use this. Don't I don't know what was told in other workshops. I base this presentation on what UOS is doing and what the club funding is doing. So yeah. And for people online, I'll get back to you guys. I'm gonna hop to people in person and answer some questions here now. Okay. So we'll work our way back up. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the question for everybody to hear, it was with regards to the club is a not-for-profit and they generate revenue, but the revenue goes directly to the club. And do we need to include those amounts in it? Yes, you do, because will show up on your bank statements. Those funds coming in, because in your receipt you have to submit your bank statement to kind of say, at least for club funding, what goes in, but what goes out, just to make sure everything is a net zero at the end. So yes, but at the end of the day, you would put it as like a description saying it's money that goes to this. And so we're like, okay, it's not for your events itself, nothing like that. It's going to a cause. Yes, true. Two more, yes. Yeah. Yeah, so the question was if an event kind of costs a lot of money, what are the limitations around the basic funding and the partnership grants in that aspect? So at that point, it's up to your finance team to kind of plan out, see how they're going to apply for funding and so on. But obviously, if you have operational needs for an event, like if your event requires a Zoom link or Zoom, you would put that in your operational application and not your event, because Zoom you can use for multiple. It's not just one event. You can use Zoom for your meetings. You can use it for lots of other events as well. So that goes under there. Now for like the event itself, you would just go under the proper grant type and stuff like that, because we're allocating a certain amount of funds for each grant type as well to allocate. And you're in that last question. Yeah. Yeah, so $6,000 is only for the partnership. Every club can request $500 for the basic funding as well. And basically how that works is in April, once you guys all reapply to be recognized as clubs, that funding amount gets set back to zero, and you guys can reapply up to $6,000. And that number can change. It can fluctuate based on the amount of funding we have to give out during the year as well. Yes. Yeah.
Is there a way we can?
So, this kind of goes back to the question I had earlier, because I'm not too familiar with the term of flex. I know some things are capital, some things aren't. The one I looked up, it was like, if you're buying, let's say, a sofa, that is a capital expense. Don't expect any of you to be buying sofas, because it'd be kind of questionable. But that's, I think, the one clear example of a capital expense. I'm not familiar. I have to go back to my finance department to help me define it, but if you send me an email, I can get back to you exactly what it is. Okay. From my knowledge, from a engineering student, not a finance or health or business student whatsoever, capital expense is anything that can be liquidated in the future at some extent. So I'm not saying any of you are going to go bankrupt or so on, but in case whenever a company does go bankrupt and you have employees to pay out and so on, you would go to your capital expense, say, okay, I have X amount of sofas, I have X amount of things. Can I pull from these funds, get rid of them, and then pay my employees to even out that stuff?
So there's no way.
No, because, well, we don't expect you guys to go bankrupt. So you wouldn't need capital expenses in that aspect. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. That, you send me an email, what we can chat about it. Yeah, I don't have that full answer. Yes.
They're being online,
Yeah, so this was a question about the Discord and so on, because so if you could, can I get everyone's attention? Because this is very, very important, because we all get emails for this. So for the actual decision making on that end, what we've come issues with and kind of why we're choosing this system as what it is because having to try to find scheduled times that not just work for the committee itself, because the committee, other than the execs, are all full-time students. We're only supposed to be part-time students, so we have a little more, we're more flexible in our day-to-day, I guess. But and you guys are also full-time students or part-time students or on co-op sometimes, like so on. And so we've opted to have the committee meet and on their own time, like, and it's not open to you guys. But you guys have access to like the notes now where we communicate directly with you guys. You guys have 3 days to get back to us. And it's kind of automatic in that aspect. But yeah, it's just because we'd have come across lots of chaos. I'm saying, yeah, today's the meeting, but then the person's like, I can't come to this meeting. Can we meet next week? And then we're like, well, we're all in class now on that day, or we can't really just, or I have an exam on that day and I can't skip my exam, right? But yeah. Yeah.
In the past, we were allowed to have our summer operations.
Yes, so, well, for this year, in the applications, and for the first one coming up, it's going to include September, October. But then next year, it's going to be, since the system's already in place, it'll be in like May, you apply for June, June, you apply for July, July, you apply for August, and so on. Technically speaking, for any event that's occurred prior to you applying, we don't give funding to. Yeah, no, I know. But just because we give funding based on the future, not on the past expenditures. That would be like a case by case for that specific one. I can't give you a solid answer. But yeah.
For
No, not yet. Yeah, because we had some internal things to deal with. No, that's gonna be adjusted. It's gonna be adjusted. Yeah, because some internal things. Yes.
talk about the reservation, he's not cheap or not like he's going to. So it might like happen. Is that? Or that even, I mean, the operational cost.
So up so if you're renting a space and then they change the price on you, I would say you need to submit an amendment to adjust some other items to get the funding from. Obviously, if the motion for like, you can apply for like 4 months on the road passes at the clubs committee and then goes for everything, then what you could do, realistically speaking, is if you obviously plan your event like a month or 6 weeks ahead of time, you apply for it, the person comes back to you, said you need more money, you can apply again for the same event and get more funds. Yeah, so any money that's not used has to be dispersed. That's stays the same.
You asked, I also that thing that's. Or not, that's in the.
Yes, yeah. Because happened too many times where clubs just submit their exec and then we're like, well, you weren't supposed to have an exec bonding on our funds. You guys should be doing that with your own funds, not ours. This is for other people to use and benefit from. Yes.
Is it possible to download like a PDF of the applications?
Yep. So once it's submitted, you can actually download your application itself.
And will we get emails once it's been approved? Because I definitely want that for the summer.
Yeah. So everything in the back end, you will probably get lots of emails. Just me and testing, I got in my inbox full of 10 emails in one shot because it says this item was added, this note was added to your application, or this amendment was done. And you guys get emails all the time.
I like it, that's all. I'm just like.
It's a money for the club, isn't not 100% sure you'll get the money reimbursed.
For the club fair specifically, that will need to be discussed with the committee. I can't make that decision myself.
Well, not 100.
I would say it's favorable. I just wouldn't give you 100% guarantee because at the end of the day, there's 7 of us in the committee. And if 4 vote against, it's a no. No, so typically you'd apply for future events, can't apply for past events. Club fair is a little bit a unique scenario because technically speaking, this would have been available to you guys prior to that. But that's why I have to go talk to my committee and see what we can do on that end. Yeah, send me an email. Yeah, and I'll put it on the agenda for the club next meeting we have. Yep. Yeah. No, yeah. So yeah, for your bank statements, what we care for, like realistically, if a club has like $2,000 in the bank account prior to applications, that's fine. We're not going to question where you got that money because at that point in time we can't really do that, and we're not going to like waste our money and time to investigate. It's going to cost lots more money and lots of your money to do that, which is no real point unless it's an extreme case. What we care about is if we give you guys $1,000 and you started with 2,000 in your bank account, at the end, when you submit your receipts, you see the 1,000 comes in, you guys go to 3,000, and then back at the end of the expenditures, you guys go back to 2,000. That's what we care about. Okay.
In case that we could use some of that money to like or sponsor one was rejected. Like would that account?
Yeah, so if you get more funds during that time period, we'd see those come in as well. Like the bank statement explicitly tells transfer from this to this account, or amount came in of this amount came out of that amount. It tells us explicitly, and also you'd have receipts matching those expenditures as well for those amounts. Working my way up. I know, Paige, I know. Yes. No, behind you.
Is your application it's bilingual, so that's straight English and French?
Yeah. We're working towards more languages, but we want to first make sure that we're also abiding by the university policy and our own policies, bilingualism first, and then we'll go from there.
How does it work with sponsorship? So let's say we have a conference and have sponsors submit, how does that impact our application, or does it at all?
So this is something I said to the French group earlier, but not all clubs, like some clubs fall under RSGs, so recognized student government. And so those clubs actually receive through levies, which is what you pay on every term, a portion of those funds. So some clubs, right off the bat, they get 8K. And so with this, we're gonna start looking, okay, there's a club that has already 8K in their bank account, they're asking for 5K now. There's another club who has nothing to really to their name. They're applying for 5K. We're gonna try to be accommodating, but we're also cognizant of the one club already has funds that they get on a regular basis. And so there's that. Sponsorships itself depends the amount, I guess. Like if you get a 50K sponsor, I'm like, please send them to UOSU or send them to CVO, because this can help benefit you guys some more in the future. But like if it's like a $2,000 sponsor or so on like that, or they sponsor, like they give you merch or things like that to give out as prizes. Those are like I guess more case by case things. Like it's not, there's no set in stone. Obviously,
It won't really impact our application.
No.
Unless it's some crazy amount.
yeah, like I would say, like if April we've used 340K of the club funding, and then we have to pick between two of them because we're now just tight on funds. We'd prefer the one with less. We give the money to ones with less funds, just because we also want them to have a chance to have their events, but that kind of stuff will be case by case, and it shouldn't be too much of an issue at the beginning. It'll be more towards the end of funding when we start depleting the fund. Yes.
And for the software, would it be updated every single time there's a new period? Or like we just submit them for each, like October, November, December?
Yeah. So for the software itself, it's open year round, basically. Obviously there are specific time periods which we're gonna, whatever applications are in that time period, we're gonna take on review. Like if you submit afterwards, it's fine. We'll just look at it the next review period. But yeah, it's open all the time and it'll update on the spot and also keep track of all your applications as well. So we can kind of see as well how many times a specific club is applying, and we get some good numbers to present afterwards later to potentially get more funding for. Yes, another one? Yep.
Like one can be estimated for every month.
So if you apply for every month, the committee would meet the week following and kind of finalize it. The only thing you do need cognizant of is that you have a cap of 6,000. So once you've reached that cap of 6,000, we can't give you any more funds. But yeah, you're free to apply as much as you want realistically. It's to how much work you want to put in, and but yeah. I'm just gonna come back, okay?
So if you already have $500 in your bank account, are you not allowed to use that from your club?
No, so if you, once again, it's for our end of things, it just needs to make sure that the amount going in is the same amount that's being spent on the receipts. If you have, like floating cash in your bank account and you use it, like we don't care. Like that's irrelevant to us. It's mainly the funds we give you.
Okay. Other sections of this portal, are you gonna have like another event to explain them?
Yeah, so CVO is gonna do some online modules and kind of like videos to explain it.
Yeah.
Just because the second I submit it, the system admin who then has to delegate it to a committee member, who then goes through his review sheet. And then there's other steps between these things before it gets approved. But once it's approved, you can then start defending and let's submitting your reports, which is your financial statements.
Okay. And is there another category for receipts?
Yeah, so this is in the reports.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
So in the case that we can't find 3 quotes for a year or a part cost.
Yeah.
Like engineering, you think that there's not more than 3 suppliers, I guess around that.
Yeah. So for everybody, because I know there's a lot of movement going around, the question was, what happens if there isn't 3 suppliers for our quotes? So in that scenario, we understand that some products or some services are very niche and not always, you can't always find those quotes. So you would just like submit the quotes you have, like capable, obviously. You would make a note that it's not possible. The only thing is now, if a committee member decides to go and look at what you're purchasing and he's, oh, okay, well, I found 4 others, then that's an issue, right? It's like, but yeah.
Second, I think this might have been asked. I'm sorry for everybody speaking it. We have an event or like a certain initiative that might cost more than like the cap that we can apply for. Would it be possible for us to apply for part of the funding and like disclose that a certain other part will come through other fundraising?
Yep, that's fully acceptable.
Does the portal accommodate for that?
Yep. Well, so you would apply for what you have, and you in the notes you would comment that we're getting extra revenue to help supplement the event itself. Yeah.
So in the past, so I know you said for bilingualism, it'll be either yes or no. So in the past, we've put down some bilingualism, because the thing is, there's just not tournaments that are bilingual. So we do bilingualism on our part, like we offer translations of documents, we offer bilingual training, but the actual event that we're going to is not bilingual. So is that, we can just put that as bilingual in the portal, or will we get in trouble with that?
So for that specifically, that's kind of where the conference and travel grant comes in, because that's where we understand that it's out of your control. And obviously, if it's you run a tournament on campus, we expect it to be bilingual. If you go to U of T or McMaster or any other university, they don't have bilingual standards. They don't care for it. So like you can, like if you want, you could approach the committee in charge of it and say, hey, we're a bilingual university, we have some bilingual students. If you could offer some documentation bilingual, it'd be really appreciated. Help like make your event more accessible to our student population. But that's out of your control as well. Like we understand that as well. Yes.
So again, bilingualism, like I don't understand. So like we have 2 events coming up that are like, they don't cost like a lot. Like we thought it was gonna follow like the tier like approach of Subaru, and like they're gonna be English because it wasn't an issue before, but like when we'll apply for that like funding, like hopefully like soon, are we gonna get denied just as the fact that it was English, even though we didn't know? Like,
so for that, it's gonna, like it's all pending your score. Like we have a somewhat of a not really complicated algorithm to calculate the scores for all that kind of stuff. So you can have like a weaker section for your sustainability, but if you have like 100% on your accessibility, it helps counterbalance that as well. We also have our own judgment. The committee member has their own judgment to kind of assert what they think as well. Like nothing, like we're pushing for like this kind of progression forward. We understand that like if you're a club that has like 5 execs, you're not really like there are minimal bilingualism requirements on that club compared to a club that has like 25 plus members that you have to have like a signing officer who's bilingual and so on, and even sometimes a person in charge of the club who's in charge of bilingualism for the club. But like that comes down again to the person in charge of reviewing that application as well.
in December, we only planned like everything changed. Like we didn't like our events later on. Like I don't know if we'll be able to implement like bilingualism, but like I'm just scared that like we'll end up like not getting any funding from you just because of that. So like
yeah, you'll get funding. The amount obviously depends on how much we can give out and the timing of your application and so on. But like you're still gonna get some funding. We're not gonna be like, no, like we want, like the point of club funding is to develop and grow student life on campus. we understand that there are limitations on certain things. We're only human. We can only do so much in a time period. What I can advise, like you at the moment, as well as like we have the bonding center at UOSU as well to help, like with document translation and so on. But like we also understand that it's the other side of it as well. Yeah, exactly. We understand both sides of it. Yep. That's that. No, it's too far back. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Part of the event, say like $200, but we actually only ended up spending 150 on that. That extra $50, do we just submit an amendment to be able to use it on something else? Does it go back to you guys?
So you could submit an amendment, but if come April, I guess, or if you haven't, it really depending on your receipt submission. Because if you submit your receipts, it means you're not going to use the funds and those will come back to us. If you haven't submitted your receipts, you can do an amendment and request to use this fund or something else.
So can we, that extra money, we need to submit an amendment?
You would need to submit an amendment, yeah, because everything listed on your application is what we're expecting to see as receipt come back to us. I'm just going to go back up and then back down. Yes.
This might have been answered, if you from like last year, do you include that in your current budget, or like do you just like put the new funds that you?
So by funds, could you clarify on if it's club funding or separate funds? Because there's a difference. Which one would it be?
Let's say funding.
So club funding, that should have been returned if it wasn't used when you submit your receipts. If it's like external funds that you receive from something else, then once again, we don't really, we'll see it, we don't care for it. But if it's club funding, once again, it has to, not going in, has to equal the amount coming out and make sure that those numbers make check out. Yeah, you include in your bank statement. Yeah. Yes.
Do we have to submit an amendment before we submit receipts in order to?
Yeah, so if you want to, like, if let's say I think for example, like $200, she only spent $150. She could submit an amendment for, let's say she wants to buy a prize for something else. She could submit for that $50 for that. Now, if she submitted her receipts, then she can't submit the amendment because we're expecting that money to come back now. But yeah, so this depends because once again, you also only get half of your funds off the bat. You only get the other half after submitting your receipts as well. So that's also kind of helps with, like, if you like underspent, then we can only got to spend you a certain amount back. We don't have to spend you all the money to see what transfers back. That makes sense. So it helps save you guys some time. Paige.
Yeah. I'm so sorry for all of my annoying questions. Sorry to everyone that's heard me ask about that. I know you mentioned earlier, a long time ago, about couches, and basically, after a quick search at Canadian Tire, it's going to be cheaper for me to buy my own barbecue and propane than it is to rent it from CNR. So can I buy that and put it in my budget? Keep it somewhere.
I would say you need to make a strong argument for where you're going to keep it.
It'll save everyone.
I know.
We'll rent it to other clubs.
We can also, exactly, we'll rent it at a cheaper price.
Yeah.
So
For free, then we can talk about that one.
Follow us on Instagram. We have a barbecue now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, you can enjoy my budget with my barbecue and propane.
Yeah. With that regard, there's some other gears that have to go into, like,
I will jump through any hoop possible to save $600.
no, I know, I 100% understand that. I'm trying to think as well, because our insurance coverage for you guys, I just want to make sure that it covers propane tanks. Because propane does explode when heated. So yeah.
Propane if that helps.
Yeah. No, I know.
I will let you ponder that and
Yeah.
you can, you know where to find me.
Yeah, and you know where to find me too, so. Um,
I mean, I know some department have, like our department have barbecue.
yeah, I know it's like the engineering faculty and science, they have their own barbecues. But that's also the niche intricate mechanisms of UAuto and how each department is separate from each other. But at the end of the day, they don't talk to each other when it comes to course registration and stuff like that. Wonderful, I love it. Starting back from the bottom again, I'll work right, actually, no, but one more question up top and then.
So let's say you plan food for example, 170 people, and you said, okay, I'll buy a certain amount of food. And you went to the store, you saw that the food is gonna cost that much, you do the budget, but the next day that you go to buy it, there's some kind of clearance on the items that you were searching for. Now, we are getting half the budget, right? But let's say with half the budget, we bought the stuff and the next half, we're not going to use all of it. And what happens? We have to redo the budget or?
No, so this is kind of why the also benefit of half the money being sent out before and after. If you end up only spending like a lot less than what you're planning, then we only actually have to send you the difference. Like if you, if let's like, for example, you got, let's say you have $1,000, you only end up spending like $475 of the thing, and then you submit an amendment for the 25 extra or whatever you could do. And then you come to me and say, hey, Zach, or you submit your receipts in the receipts basically, you're like, hey, we only spent 500 because we had this amazing store clearance and everything was to go and half off, and we didn't have to spend the 500, but okay, perfect. We're all good on our end. It all checks out. We don't send you any more funds, and you don't send us any back.
When we submit the receipt, you just send us.
Exactly, and we'll send the difference. Like it saves you guys time on having to send us money back too, and that portion as well.
That food, you know.
Yep. Back down. Yep, right here, and then we'll go. Okay.
Is there any certificates?
So if you're like a club that's greater than 25 members, you have to have a bilingual person. That now comes down to your club's constitution and what those standards are. Like if you want the person to do a bilingualism test to certify they're bilingual, by all means go for it. But you don't really need to go that extreme. Like if you're capable of having a conversation with somebody in French and they can talk back to you and you can talk to them in French and have like a simple conversation, like to me, like that's already a good step in the right direction. But yeah, I wouldn't say you don't need to get like a certificate or anything like that. That can cost you like about $100 or more, and it's just. Yeah, so typically, so the standard is French first, English second for all posting on Instagram. So you post French and English afterwards. For any material you print out, obviously just have both options. And it's on that end, that's something the committee is talking about, because my committee this year is very more strict on the French. A lot of no, all great, all great. Like all the members are great. So I'm not saying they're not. Like they are all very like in the aspect for better committees for this year. But like one of our action plans is like really push for bilingualism. We're kind of discussing to have like sometimes like the bigger events sending like a ULSA person to check on the bilingualism just to kind of make sure that it's happening. But that's stuff in the works and it's not done yet. And it may not happen, depends where we're discussing it, because also to do with feasibility and what's possible, what's not possible. Yes.
You also buy the barbecue.
So this is a fun little topic, because one of my things I'm kind of working on this year is that we have an equipment rental program where clubs can basically rent their equipment, and then maybe you put like a $20 deposit on it and you get $20 deposit back. But you sign a contract and then you get the equipment, bring it back to us. If it's broken, we'll then pay for it. But other than that, it'd be free, because we understand that sometimes renting certain things that seem pretty like not expensive to rent sometimes, or like very overpriced to rent, can be outrageous and expensive. So that's something we're working on.
If you give them barbecue, can they pay to us? Like everybody else?
So that's that actually. So it kind of going back to the point of they bought an item with club funding and now they're generating revenue off the item. So it's a no. Well, at least their barbecue would be a no at that point. But yeah. I'll check online now to see if there's any questions. There are 24 questions. Sorry, everybody online. I don't know if I missed it, but where do we send the receipts? So receipts will be done for the reports section of the application or the portal, I guess, however you word it. For the revenue, are we also reporting external revenue sources or just previous CVO funding we apply for? Yeah, so it'd be all revenue you generate. So if you have sponsorships coming in, you'd put that in the revenue section just so like it's basically just keep it as like an annual budget of sorts, but on this application. When will this be accessible to us? So for the portal itself, it should be within the week. And for the recording and the PowerPoint, that will be sent to you guys within the week as well, from what I gather. Just to confirm, raising funds to donate for a cause, okay, but not generating money for the club itself. Yeah, that's correct. If that is the case, are we allowed to keep retained earnings or small amounts of the profit up to a certain threshold for liquidity? Yeah, so no, the first portion is correct. Second portion, you cannot do because we're giving you funds to help you kind of get funds for this charity organization. That's kind of what you would describe in your event description. It's kind of like not really like a formal contract, but what you write, we expect you to kind of follow suit with. Like if you kind of break what you write in your application itself, it just doesn't look well on you and your club afterwards. And it just makes it harder for you guys to get funding potentially in the future if you learn about such things. And so operational costs are submitted for the same application as the one you did. Then before, no, so operational costs is done through the funding opportunity. It's done through basic funding right here. And you kind of same thing as before. Submit. Yeah, just submit items here, kind of deal. Wondering that too. Okay, yeah, answered. Are we allowed to fundraise like sell merch to fund events that you won't cover? So if you have an event that's selling merch and it's not based off of club funding, do as you feel is right. Like if it's, unless it's using our funds, like you're not obliged to follow the rules. It's only when you start using our funds that you get to follow the rules. But yeah. How's attendance for this taken? So there was a link shared earlier. I think I can look it up afterwards and try to reshare it. But you have to do that. Google form, yeah, perfect. Thank you, Alexandra. Seconding Mercy's question, are we allowed to receive external revenue from third parties? And if so, do we report it to you? So I answered this. Get someone using the Google Forms. Yeah, there we go. What's the cap for funding for bilingual and non-bilingual events again? Not the grants. Funding, bilingualism is a criteria in your application, not a funding type itself. So if you, Maria, if you could clarify that, and I'll get to it when it comes, get down to your question afterwards, that'd be great. How many people do we have anyways? 40. If we have some unused CVO funding, can we return it or should we just spend it? Yeah, so return those amounts. We expect you to return those amounts. Piggybacking off that, can whatever funding that may be left over from a certain month funding application be rolled over and used to the following month for another event, or does it have to be returned ASAP then reapply for? Yeah, so once again, it's kind of the same procedure. Like if, and I was kind of explaining it to somebody earlier, I forget who it was. But if you apply for an event and let's say you apply for $1,000 for it, and then you spend all of it, and then you realize, well, I need an extra 500, the following month you can apply to help supplement that difference if needed.
You have to pay that out of pocket then, in the moment.
In the moment you would have to, but since your event is technically speaking hasn't occurred yet, because that's what funding is, you apply prior to help fund it. Help fund future events. Ideally you wouldn't, it wouldn't be as much on as of that. Maybe sometimes you can talk to the guy and say, hey, I'll make up a story, I get paid on this thing next week, and we just wait until then. And people are sometimes comprehensive if they're somewhat nice.
So then if we want to apply to make up that 500, let's say we go 500 over budget, the next month, will you be able to get that money because you don't?
You would have to apply and then we'd have to evaluate that. Once again, there's no guarantee, like obviously try to plan for the worst off the bat. Because there's no guarantee, but with the system, you technically can.
It wouldn't be rejected immediately because it's previous.
Yeah, so that's like, unless you're saying the event occurred like a month and a half and then you come to us 2 months later and say, hey, I need funds for this, we'll be like, okay, well,
yeah,
come on. Yes.
So if we're running an event where we have participants coming from other universities who traditionally pay an entry fee, are we able to make a profit if it's partially funded through U Ottawa off of the other universities to subsidize U Ottawa students?
I will have an answer for you next week because I'm meeting with CUSA on Monday to discuss this specifically.
They say half should be funded.
Yeah, like in the events itself, but we also have a lot of events like philanthropic groups and like even religious groups that kind of cover all of the Ottawa region, so including Carleton and New Ottawa, and even Algonquin. And so we're trying to find a system that can be fair to everybody in that aspect, because from what I gather, our club recognition system's the strictest of all. And so we're just trying to find a good medium between everybody, just make sure that we can find something that works. Yeah, he said you would have to use, okay, thank you. Thank you, understand. Up to what amount of funding do we need to be bilingual? That's up to the committee, hasn't been set yet. We're supposed to make club funding deadlines if the portal will be accessible to us within a week. So those deadlines will be adjusted because we had some internal issues. How do we know which tier status is applicable to our type of student organization? Yeah, so the tier system is ancient. We are basically someone considering all applications moving forward, like at the 33% barrier for accessibility, sustainability. But we also understand that if club is only applying for $50 for like a one event, then we're not going to be strict either. Like we're trying to have some rules in place, but also have a more case-by-case scenario thing compared to previous years. Because every club does things different and everybody is different in that aspect. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all the questions that we have. On that note, the recording will be shared with all of you at some point in the near future. But thank you all for showing up today. Yes, you will receive an email from CVO for that part.
Private, can you say the platform? Sorry. Private.
Okay. Sure. I'll try to take some. Well, actually, I'll check the form right now. It's all.
I guess I'll check it. I'll do it again because I also didn't know if it's club or personal.
Yeah, are you here for, I'm the school press for the multiple school system, so. Okay. Just doing. Is food okay, guys?
I would say. Log email. Because.
Oh, we can not?
Yes.
I will get there.
Clothing, all sorts of.
Yeah, no.
The funding tiers like Emerald, Ruby and Sapphire, they're still really off the track.
Yeah. Yeah, because it she came up, arose that, well, we'll offer funding now on a monthly basis. But that doesn't maybe require maybe the fact, about some of us will just go out of the thousand over the time, right? So
They have those 6,000.
yeah, exactly.
My name, Clubby now.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's a little bit issue about that.
So I know like we have like some issues with the funding situation going on. So I'm going to get a detail about the and I think we don't I'll be able to do that. I haven't got the airline.
Yeah, fine.
For the receipts, would you recommend just doing it as soon as you get it, just put it in there?
Yeah, the sooner the better, obviously.
Yeah, mine.
Yeah, because, well, so you get your funds quicker.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah. $1,200. If we like put that in, we will get 600, right?
Yeah.
And then when we give the receipt,
The other 600.
when we use that to reimburse the.
Yeah. Yeah, well, also 600 minus potentially if you don't use all of it either, right?
Yeah, so like the difference we don't use goes either we amend it to go to another place or we just return it.
Yeah, basically. So when you submit your receipts, if you said that in your receipts that you didn't use my $50, then you just were minus $50 from the 600 reason you send you. But if you use all of it or you submit an amendment prior to it and the amendment gets approved, then it'd be fine.
Like, I guess, we have like a debate pretty much every weekend.
Yeah.
So for that, should we like do it like ask for the funds in September, like for the month of October, or should we just do the whole semester? Or either,
Yeah.
or it doesn't really matter that much.
That's I guess
I heard those two ways, either like prior to the next month. or-
yeah, that's currently for the policy, that's how it's stated. But I've had some requests to kind of look over it again and kind of see if you can have it so you can apply for any future months up until April. So but I'll talk to my committee and see what if it like it makes sense.
More detail like in emails that'll be sent.
Yeah, there'll be emails, sure, yeah. What did I just talk about? I will open up. It's just like if you look small of it, probably. It's all out.
So you're just gonna like. All foods. No, yeah, like because we don't want to keep. Time to say, so this is what we decide this time to do something, not just the beats. Yeah, but we gonna say, I think the one that we have to, what we just make the image, or we just make a introduction.
So what I would recommend you, ideally, if you're doing presentation and so on, if you can have like, policy depends on how you're structuring your head, if you have a presentation was one of the first ones in English, maybe depends. You can also do like a mix between low pressure and student presentation. But if you have no be capable of speaking French there, then you got content. Like running things in French, that'd be good.
Because I just feel like realize you would be coming to him is that I would see with the maybe not.
So the government just recommended, apply for 800, and we have an event with RBC, they take it up. We just gonna bring the 300 for people just to take some stairs to average some capacity. Like we're gonna just apply for one maximum 1,500 for all the year.
Yeah, like, I think that's fine, like,
But is it guaranteed that they will give us also?
yeah, so. I can't guarantee exactly, I can say, yeah, you're gonna get $1,000, but at the end of the day, it's. This one, because I'm applying.
For the whole, like for the 2 semester, but in the summer we have to use. The package, so 6,000 per year, right?
Yes, excluding the summer for this year, so like 6,000.
No, without the summer.
Yeah, so it's from September to April this year, you have 6,000.
I just wanna apply for one. You can give them, right?
Once again, I can't guarantee you, and I can't give you a confirmation now, like obviously, submit the application go through the committee. And then we, like, if we. I don't say it often paper off the bat, but all programs ask for funding off the bat. That's what we can, like, 130, that's what we can do. Right, it depends on the
Yeah,
application.
this is what I will for all in, so what I will do, to be honest, I will apply for all the events on time. Because my thing is to show them that our maximum budget,
Yeah, no, I guess that.
Is it a good idea to do that, just to show them, like, we have an event? Just to show them that, no, so sorry for that, semester, yeah.
No, that's. No, I get it,
Not for the semester.
Yeah.
Just to apply for, just to show them that is the maximum. In the winter, we would just want to do one event, no.
Yeah, it's we got combined.
So that's it, like, it just to like compare whole.
Yeah.
But I just want to apply for this,
Yeah, like you can apply for it.
So I just want to show to them, this is what we're gonna do, that's this stuff.
Yeah,
Just to encourage them to give us that one, because I think we can apply for one.
Yeah.
Place or do you want to be like?
Let's do 91. I don't like how this one opens on the inside. Let's go here.
If it's.
I'm gonna do the cool soju trip.
Oh,
Like I'm gonna do a video like.
Yeah, so, yeah, there's.
We do like, you have to drink part of it.
What I should have done is that.
Yeah, so different doctors, that's fine, pretty sure it's. We don't find any kind of stuff. Let's say, like, we're gonna print like 12 t-shirts. Then you will need. Afterwards, 8, you sell, then it should have no first account. And also like, you can't do it for students. Wow.
How can I do this one?
So